we go. So we're joined all the way from the very snowy Raleigh, North Carolina, by my friend Zakiya Wiggins, architect extraordinaire, and joining us for the fourth time in this incredible platform. We thank you so much for taking some time for us, and love to hearing about your amazing journey into architecture and all the great careers in it. And we are in the construction career cluster, and I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson. And we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, our construction program over at the Madison Career and Technical Center, and our YouTube channel. So we thank you so much now for joining us for the fourth time in your incredible career.
Thank you for having me. So I'll go ahead and share and get started.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some of your new designs.
All right, can you see my screen?
We can.
All right, so nice to meet you all. Zakiya Wiggins, and I'm an architect in Raleigh, North Carolina. Make sure. All right. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself to get started. With any career that you kind of choose, you're managing your personal life and your educational training and work. And so, to kind of look at the timeline of my career, which really starts when you graduate. Um, I graduated from NC State in 2015 and I moved to Maryland to start my master's in architecture at Morgan State University. From there, I then moved to Virginia to start my career working at Clark Nexon. And I worked in that office for 2 years until I got married and moved back to North Carolina to work in the Raleigh office of Clark Nexon. In 2021, I built a house and moved again. And then in 2023, I had my first child, and last year I had my second. So today's my first day back from maternity leave, and happy to share that
Oh,
with
wow. That's
y'all.
awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks. Um, so during that time, also within 2017 to 2020, I was working on my NCARB hours. And so we'll talk more about that later, what that's like, or this might be the only slide about it actually. But what that is really working on your internship portion of architecture and getting real life experience in the field. And that could be just going to a site with a licensed architect or contractor. There's also, other things that you can do. There can be lunch and learn presentations, but in general, it's going to be like an internship type of position that gets you those hours. And that could even be full-time position as well. And so once I graduated from Morgan, I was trying to get more into the studying habit again before I started taking my architect registration exams. And so to do that, I took the LEED exams. LEED is a sustainability certification that stands for like leadership and environmental design. There's another E in there, but that's essentially what it is. And so there's two types. There's the green, which is more of an introductory, and then you can do more of a advanced certification. So mine is building design. And after that, I started taking the AREs, the architect registration exams. There's six of those, and there's six different parts, and so you can take them one at a time. And spent about 3 years doing that because it overlapped with COVID. And I've been licensed about 5 years since. And overlapping with that, I was doing things with NC Noma. So we'll talk more about Noma. So, environmental leadership in energy and environmental design is what LEED stands for. And another common certification is well design. And these are the most two common, but now there's always new things coming out with, industry advancement, technology. Um, as far as memberships, the American Institute of Architects is the biggest one and most common architectural membership. And so there's roughly 100,000 architect members and industry professionals that are part of AIA. And NOMA is the National Organization of Minority Architects.
Mm.
and that uh, has chapters. I want to say roughly 40 professional chapters across the United States, and even more student chapters on college campuses. And so I've been a part of both of those organizations since I graduated from Morgan in 2017. Now, this is kind of fun. Some of these are a little blurry, but um, in college, when you go to school for architecture, your life is studio. So it's not really the lectures, it's like other professions or even like a whole bunch of exams. It's really making projects in studio. So I found these online. These top two are actually from NC State. Um, this one on the left is Liaisar. And so there's this catwalk that goes around the top of the studio.
Oh,
So you can
wow.
go up there, you can literally just see what everybody's working on. Um, and then this one is from Kep Hefner Hall at NC State. And so this is a master's class in a building that's kind of across the street from Liaisar. And then these two are from Morgan State. And what's unique about, I would say, Morgan State's versus NC State, NC State's kind of all the studios are a little separated. And so this is generally a freshman studio. Um, and then there's another building that has and this is a freshman studio with all of the design disciplines. So graphic design, industrial design, architecture, all together. Um, and then this master's class is going to be just architecture. And then at Morgan State, all of the years from freshman through masters are all in the same studio together,
Wow.
studio building. So you can walk from one end to the other and see the full range. So I think it's cool.
Well, we'll definitely come back to that because that's a great point. But go ahead.
Yeah. I want to show a little bit of undergraduate work. And so when you first kind of get into architecture, it's very abstract and not just, getting right into designing traditional buildings. And so for this project, we had to abstract a painting, and I paint, so I thought that was like this was one of my favorite. Um, so this mural right here is a portion of a mural that I painted in my
That's awesome.
office. So this is kind of abstracting based on the lowlights and the highlights and the shadows of the painting. And I use that to determine where, the drop-off points were or where the hills were in this, and then created this little pavilion that's kind of like a gallery space. Once you get a little further into school, you start to get a little more practical with looking at, structural design and materiality and making things really, useful and practical. And so NC State has a large veterinary program and
Okay.
is big on agriculture. Um, and so one of our projects was designing a teaching dairy barn that kind of looked at a way of how you have students engaging and keeping areas separate, the clean areas from the dirty areas. So it was kind of a different way to think about architecture.
Yeah.
For my graduate project, for my thesis, I designed the Veteran Ability Center. And so accessibility is so important in architecture. No matter what type of project you're designing, you want to make sure that people of all ability levels are able to use it, all ages. And I think that's what really defines like a successful project, is that having that level of access and care into a design. And so for this, I wanted my client to have the most accessibility needs to really do a deep dive into what that meant. And so looking at veterans that have had limb amputations and need rehabilitation, mentally, physically, socially is what this space aimed to do.
And that's in Baltimore, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we were able to choose our site anywhere in the city. And so we used Google Earth to kind of find sites and then would drive by and see, okay, is this somewhere that will work? with the terrain, with the community? Is it near the type of resources that would be beneficial? So this site was right in the middle of a community. So it would be able to double as an amenity for that community after hours or, whenever it was available. So it has a ramp that goes up throughout the space. And so the idea is that you start here on the ground level, um, and that you're able to work your way up through the space. So first you have the walking ramp, and then when you get up on higher levels, you have the running. Um, and on that ground level is the swimming pool because pools actually are a really great equalizer for abilities and with the
Oh, big time.
buoyancy. So yeah, once you get to the top here, you're really able to like look back and reflect on how far you've come.
Oh, oh, I love
Um,
this one. This is my favorite one.
this is my favorite one too, I think. 'Cause I was learning how to do all this in real time when I put it together. So these are some of the different kinds of construction drawings that you'll do. So first is the elevation, and that's if you're outside of a building and you're looking just right at the side of it. What is it you see that's straight ahead of you? And so typically you have one for each side of the building. If you think of a building being square, but no matter what shape your building is, you're going to have one for each side. And so this is looking at the south. And for this one, I have the shadows turned on. So you're able to see here where it's lighter, that's where the sun is shining directly on it. And then where it's a little darker here, that's because the building is curving.
Never would have
And
thought
so,
about that.
yeah, so that's how that happens. So the building that's showing a curve, and then that puts that in shadow because the sun is over here at this point. Um, So then the second one here is a section. So it's looking at the same direction. If you were to slice the building from top to bottom, this is what you would see. And there's that pool that we talked about before, and this is kind of coming in through the lobby area right here. And so in section, you're able to see the ramp that goes around the building here, here, and here. And this will be one of the exercise rooms, um, at the first floor and the second floor of that. So then over here, you kind of have a combination view. So you have a little bit of elevation and somewhat of a perspective. So it's called a section perspective because you're able to see the building in 3D, but you're also able to slice through it and see what's inside. So this exercise room right here is what's shown here. Um, And this view is of the neighborhood. Down here, the bottom left corner where it says west. So this is the west view if I put that building right into the neighborhood. So one of
Wow.
the things that kind of confirmed like this was the right site was when I went on to Google Earth and I saw kids playing outside. And so this is the actual Google Earth image, and that's a real real person that was out there when the Google van went around taking this picture. So, since I'm your only AEC industry person, I'm happy to expand more on the construction side when we get to questions. Generally, the process we do feasibility studies, and so that's when a client's like, "What can I actually do on this site? Like, do I even have enough space on the land to do the things that we want?" And having those client meetings to discuss design choices, and then we start to create those drawings on the computer and work with the contractor, depending on if this is a design build, we'll work with the contractor from the very beginning, hand in hand to make these design choices. Or if it's design bid build, which is a very typical process, the architect is making all the decisions up front, and then a contractor puts in a bid to say, okay, I want that project, I want to build that, and this is how much I'm going to charge to do that. Um, then we select finishes and materials and construction, visit construction sites. And so these are kind of the main tasks, but there's many in between.
Yeah, because you've proven the girls can wear the hard hats. I know you love those. I know you love the site visits.
I love the site visits. there's because you spend a while working on the drawings depending on how big a project is. You may be working on the drawings for like a year
Wow.
or less or more. And so once you get to that construction part, you're actually getting to see, your designs come to life. So it's exciting. I work at LS3P and I'm in our K-12 sector. So I design schools, elementary, middle school, and high schools. And I want to show you some of our other sectors that we have. And so we really do a full range of work here, aviation and transportation, higher education, civic, hospitality, recreation, um, interiors on pretty much all of our projects, mixed use and workplace, just to name some of them, and healthcare. We have a big healthcare sector. And so the benefit I think of working at a large firm is that you get to work on this range of projects, like if you want to, or if, say like there isn't a project going on right now in your sector, you can say, oh, I'm interested in helping this other sector do this, or another office that is doing the same work. Um, so first I'll start with K-12. This school is actually under construction, or maybe they may have opened while I was out. But this is a school in Cary, an elementary school.
Wow.
Here's another school that we've done. And so really partnering with the schools to see how is the way that they teach, how do they like collaboration spaces, is that what's best for their teachers and things like that, and keeping up with all the education standards. Um, Here's a civic, so that's more of like public use space. So this is a library, healthcare. And so we do the kind of full range of everything from more of like clinic size to hospital. And so part of that is looking at when we partner with our interior designers, understanding the feel of a space. Is it warm? If it's healthcare, there's usually certain colors that are used, either based on branding or just based on science of like what colors are more calming for certain spaces. And so then it's kind of mapped out. Okay, these are the major themes for each space. Workplace design, so
Oh,
office
I like that
buildings.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is really nice. And then this is the inside of
Oh,
that same
wow.
building. And so this
Is
one
that is
had
that in
a kind of
Raleigh?
no, I will have to check and see where this one is. But our offices are across the southeast, so we have 12
Gotcha.
um between Florida and North Carolina, and then like
Wow. That's
a little
awesome.
bit to the west. Higher education, and it's the inside view. And then higher education can also include coliseums and arenas. So when you think about college campuses, you need somewhere for sports.
Oh, Clemson.
This is the Clemson. I believe this was a renovation project. So yeah, the field of architecture needs revision and perspective.
That's awesome. Now, they've got me some questions, but I wanted to talk about a couple things.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and again, it's always incredible to see the work you do. But one thing that I think is important because obviously, and we're going to send this to my friend Michael Sherrill over in our construction department at our career center, is if kids maybe aren't interested in going the college route, you work with trade people every day that are vital to making these buildings happen. Because you showed a lot of lighting the way it's hung. You need great electricians. You need great painters when it comes to material and colors. You always got to deal with great carpenters, with great metal workers, and they're making really good money to get in there and work with their hands. And there's also a lot of females that do that as well. So, talk about some of the trades that you work with and why they're so needed because you're doing the planning part, but you're not out there
Hmm.
handling the equipment, making sure it's all put together.
Yes, the trades are so important. And I would say now more than ever, a lot of people over the years haven't been pushed enough in that direction, and now there's kind of so really the field is very lucrative because there haven't been a lot of people pushed in that direction. There's a really high need, for people to go into the trades, and so working with electricians and then uh woodworkers for like all the cabinetry that goes in, tilers putting all the tile in. And so there's tile in the bathrooms, the floor, people that are good with concrete and specialized in flooring as well. So every single part of the building has so you have your general contractor up here, and they manage all of the trades. And then for every single element of the building there's a subcontractor, and those are the tradespeople that specialize in a certain product or building a certain thing. So you have one subcontractor that will come in and they just do walls, and they specialize in walls, and they get them up, as quickly as possible and as correctly as possible because that's their specialty. Um, so I think I would highly encourage, if you're interested in really hands-on type of work, and um, I would say as well, like what is it called? Um, it's faster pace in general.
Yeah.
So than actually just sitting and designing.
Yeah, and you just showed the Little John Coliseum. There's a lot of bathrooms in that building. You need some stud plumbers. That's got to keep a lot of people cool. You need some stud HVAC people. Those people are making a lot of money to do that.
Hmm.
And we encourage all of our kids to determine the best path. If we have several here that want to go to college and they have great ideas of what they want to do, and we always have some on the fence. So we're all about giving
Yeah.
kids options. So there definitely is a lot of various entry points in the construction and architecture field that don't necessarily require a degree. Some of them do, some of them
Right.
don't. But we just really encourage everybody to look at what fits them best. Now, something you showed a picture, and that's why I said I want to come back to it.
Hmm.
And before you came on, I talked about this with them because I thought it was interesting. You had a picture of Morgan State, which is a great HBCU there in Baltimore, and it had a diverse student body there. And something I always say is historically black does not mean exclusively black. I have kids all the time tell me they don't want to go to an HBCU because, hey, I went to a black high school. I don't want to just go to a black college too. Well, as somebody that went to an HBCU, you can tell them firsthand it is way more diverse than people realize. And at the same
It
time,
is.
I think it's very interesting. You have the PWI HBCU combo, which I always think is so cool because NC State obviously has a lot of things that they can offer. Same thing with Mississippi State, Ole Miss here in Mississippi. Great, huge state universities can offer a great experience. But also, you have the HBCU experience, which gave you that the smaller field, the great atmosphere of working with like-minded individuals. So, as somebody that has the PWI HBCU combo, even for people not interested in construction, what can that combo offer when it comes to education?
I personally, I really am glad that I went that route, and I'm not sure if I ever said why like fully. So when I was a senior at NC State, we had study abroad. And so before I
Oh,
studied
wow.
abroad, I was applying to um I actually was applying to additional PWIs because I had a specific interest in mind of doing like a dual landscape and master's in architecture. And it just happened to be that only PWIs had offered that. And so my time in Prague was kind of enlightening, with me just coming back and just wanting to be around more, like it opened my mind to a lot of different things, but in another way I wanted to expand my horizons a bit. And so I had been in Raleigh because I'm from the Cary area. And so that's when I was like, I came back and I actually didn't complete or send in any of those applications. And I decided just to apply to Morgan State and get that diverse experience that I had wanted after being in another country with, you know, kind of fish out of water for a semester. Um, And so I wanted that more diverse experience and wanted to go somewhere that really kind of valued that camaraderie that I was looking for in
Yeah,
a master's program. And I still had the opportunity to take landscape classes as well, even though I decided not to do dual masters.
that's awesome. Now, before I get to their questions, one thing I think is important because I think it's so great you mentioned all those associations you've been a part of. Because whether somebody wants to go into construction or not, I always say when you go to college, no matter what you major in, you need to get involved in student organizations, whether it's
Hmm.
ones with your major, whether it's ones just for social, whether it's Divine Nine, whatever.
Hmm.
Because you can have a great GPA, you can be a fantastic student, but if you don't build your network, you don't do the internships and get that experience, it's amazing how people find themselves on the outside looking in when it comes to experience. Because you can have the higher GPA, but companies want to see who do you know in the industry? Who can vouch for you? What type of hands-on experience do you have? So, as kids are starting to make decisions on what they want to do, why do they really need to consider what type of student organizations are also at these universities?
I think what you just said is so important. And if they don't, if your students don't get anything else from this, please get that you need internship experience and that that networking is important. And so networking is just meeting somebody that's doing the thing that you want to do. And so I would say, yeah, regardless of any field that you go into, sometimes once you get out of school, whether it's once you get out of high school or once you get out of, a community college program or certificate program or a traditional 4 year, you kind of need experience to get experience.
There
And
you go.
so having that first internship really kind of propels you forward into your next opportunities, even if it's something really short. um, I did a winter internship while I was at Morgan State. It was only 4 or 5 weeks, but it was at a really good firm. And so I feel like that helped boost my resume to give me more opportunities for after I graduated. And the same thing with, if you're doing a trade, you can call somebody up and say, "Hey, I want to shadow," or "I just want to come by and see your space." And I think that as a high school student, you have so much more of an advantage because people love to open their doors to students, and it's harder once you get, a little older. Once you're already working somewhere, you're like competition. So while you're a student, take advantage of being a student and just seeing as many spaces as you can, even before you make a decision on something that you want to do.
That's awesome. Well, I do have some questions here, and I'll get to as many of these as I can. But I love this first one, and I don't know if I even know this. This is Alexander Harris. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "What was your biggest motivation to become an architect?"
My biggest motivation, I think, was actually just like the biggest inspiration was when I was looking through career choices, I've always been drawing and I liked math and architecture seemed to combine the two of them. Um, and so that's what excited me, just the idea that you could create something that people get to experience and something that um will be around potentially longer than you are.
Oh, big time. I like this question. This is John Kincaid. He's in ninth grade. And he asked, "What's the biggest challenges that come with building and designing, or I'm sorry, that come with building something and designing it before it's finally finished?"
I would say the the projects that have the biggest challenges could be the renovation projects because you're renovating and you don't necessarily know what's behind those walls until you get
Ooh.
behind them. And so you can be working on design for a while, but until it actually comes time for that construction process, you kind of have what we call contingents, like a design construction contingency, which is an amount of money for just unknowns that you find once construction starts.
I like this one. This is Kelsey Slaughter. She's in 10th grade, one of our volleyball players here at Velma Jackson. And she asked, "What was it that showed you that you knew this is what you really wanted to do?"
I went to NC State's design camp, and was a week-long camp, and every single day you did a different major. You made a project that was for the different major, and
Oh,
that
cool.
I really enjoyed the architecture day. But even if I didn't, I knew that I wanted to do something in design after I left that week.
Awesome. Well, I got time for two more. This is Aaliyah Clay. She's in ninth grade. And she asked, "What's the biggest inspiration for your designs?"
Um, Honestly, the students, like whatever the school kind of specializes in or what they're pushing towards. So if it's a magnet school and they're performing arts, that performing arts and the neighborhood surrounding is going to be the inspiration. What is the history of the school? How can you envelope that into the new design so that nothing is lost from one generation to the next?
And that's another point is even though this takes a skill person to do, there's a lot of customer service involved in this because you have to fit within a budget and you have to fit within what they want. You got to fit in spaces. So you have to listen to the client. Yeah, you get a little creative room, but at the end of the day, this is a customer-based business. And I don't think it gets enough talk about that because you got to have some people skills when you're doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this person did not write their name on it, but this is a good question. That they asked, how much time do you really take on each individual project?
Ooh, it's thousands of hours. And so I may not always be for 1,000 hours, but the way that the project manager, when they receive a project and they look at, okay, how am I assembling this team? How many architects do I need working on it? How many interns? Then project manager hours, and then the principal in charge, who is the ultimate design leader, the person with the most experience. They have a few hours. So they look at the total budget of the project and then how many hours they can allocate to each person. And then that we go from there. And so sometimes you'll be working on a project 40 hours a week for a long time, and sometimes it's 20 hours, your half time, because there's a larger team on it. So it kind of depends that way.
I love it. Well, we're almost out of time, and as always, we thank you so much for joining us. It's getting to be a yearly thing for us, and it's just always such a joy. But a couple things before we go. Uh, First of all, where can they see more of the work you've done online? Because I know you showed us a few, but where can they look at some of the things your company does online?
ls3p.com.
ls3p.com. All right, well, we'll
Hmm.
definitely get that out. Now, the last thing before we go is, I think it's so cool how you showed so many different areas that are touched by your company. And literally everything that we sit in, everything that we walk into has to be built, it has to be designed. But at the end of the day, there are not a whole lot of architects that look like you in this field. And, it's no coincidence that we always have you around Black History Month to celebrate the need and the contributions of so many great Black designers and so many great Black leaders in the construction industry. So, as these kids are starting to make decisions, why should they really consider getting into the space that for a long time really had a lot of barriers to entry when it came to people of color and women?
I think now more than ever, it's important to continue to try to get into design to make sure that, there are architects that look like you designing the spaces and the neighborhoods that we live in. And so making sure the community is heard and also understood. Um, Sometimes things are lost in translation. And so having just that cultural connection, I think, is important when designing, particularly for spaces in neighborhoods and surrounding neighborhoods.
Love it. Well, I know you got to get back to work on your first day back from maternity leave and dealing with your lovely little ones.
Thank you
But
so
we just
much.
really hope you guys stay warm all the way up there in Raleigh. But again, always a pleasure. My friend, Zakiya Wiggins, all the way from Raleigh, North Carolina. Thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
for
us today.
having me. Bye,
All
everybody.
right. Talk to you soon. Stay warm.
All right, you too.